Hi everyone, Stepan here. I have the black pieces in this one, playing... Who am I playing? Renato 62. Okay, with a pretty low bullet rating. We're gonna play the Slav, or the Semi-Slav, if we're allowed. Again, I'm wishing you all very happy holidays. If you celebrate the holidays now, hope you're having a great time with your families. And that you have time for some chess. Or that one of your family members plays chess, which makes all the holiday dinners way more enjoyable. Okay, he played the quiet variation, but with knight c3, so you cannot get away with bishop f5 because of cd5 and queen b3. Now we're just in the normal semi-Slav. Let's see if he goes bishop d3 or queen c2, Meran or anti-Meran. Running pretty low on coffee, and Lucia is out with the dog, so I cannot get help. Or she cannot make me coffee. Not that she makes me coffee, she does when I'm recording videos and I don't have any more coffee. Pretty weird spot to be thinking in this game. He left the game. I don't know why. It's equal, so okay, he's back, I guess. It's either bishop e2, bishop d3, or queen c2. You can play b3 as well, and that's about it. There are some weird lines with a4. Okay, plays the main move. Now we're in the Meran, so there are three options. Bishop b3 is the only annoying option. Okay, against this I play a6, he goes e4, I go c5. And it's a normal Meran. Okay, this is a mistake. Castling is a mistake because white doesn't get e4 in time, and now black is perfectly equal. If he takes, I take with the knight and go bishop b7, queen c7, rook d8. I've had this many times. This is a well-known inaccuracy. b3 I don't know. I think the c-file is kind of loose now, so I'll just go bishop b7 and rook c8 because I'm covering e4. I don't think bishop a3 is scary because I'm covering it twice and I'm about to go rook c8. e4 definitely isn't as efficient now because of takes and rook c8. I don't know. I don't know castles and b3. That seems kind of loose. I mean, I faced it before, but it's not a good setup. I'm going to show you after I finish the game the thematic anti-Meran semi-Slav, what white should play, and I keep getting surprised by people not going into the main lines. I don't know why. White always has a comfortable position. Why couldn't you study the position to move 9 instead of to move 8? That's mind-boggling. That's a nice word. Okay, so now is it time to go bishop e7 or do we go rook c8? So takes, blah blah, e4, takes. Seems okay. I'm even thinking I can allow e5 in some positions, but I'm gonna go bishop e7 first. Let's not risk much. So if e4 and I take on d4, then he doesn't have e5, and if e4 and castles, then e5. Can I take? No. So if e4, I probably take on d4. Let's castle for now. I want my queen on b6, my rooks on c8 and d8, because I want to line up with his queen. And I'm going to keep the central tension for as long as possible. I would love him to take and try and create this battery with bishop b1, queen c2 or d3, because it doesn't really work. I'm ahead on the clock. That's very rare. But I know the position and he'd made a mistake already, so... Okay, queen e2 helps e4, e5, that makes sense. But I could go queen b6 now. So queen b6, e4, cd4, knight d4, queen d4, knight b5, queen b6, knight c7. Is that good? I don't think it is. Rook c8 and the knight is loose. So I think I do go queen b6. He could go bishop a3, but then I have b4. And I can always just choose to go e5. Because now my queen is not on the end of the line, so if e4 takes, e5 takes, takes, check. Okay. Trying to play e4. So is it time to take on d4 now? Because if he takes with the knight, he doesn't have central control. If he takes with the pawn, he doesn't have e4. So cd, I'm expecting pawn takes. And then I can set up a blockade with knight d5. But if knight takes, because now his rook is lined up with my queen, so I cannot take on d4 anymore. Okay, I'm taking now, before he plays e4. I want him to make a decision. I have to be careful about the f5 square now that I've taken, because any e5 would mean knight d4, knight f5. Okay. So now if e4, e5, how does that look? I could just go rook fd8, and on e4 I can take because the bishop is blocked, and on bishop b5 I have queen b6. Okay, so that's prevented for now. I'm not giving away the f5 square so lightly, and this also gives me the option to go knight f8 if I need to do something with my f6 knight. That gives me the option to defend h7. Still didn't get my coffee table back. Lucia took it yesterday because Lucia's grandmother got a small Christmas tree and it's not big enough, so we had to set it on a coffee table to make it taller, and now my coffee table is stuck for a week or more until they put down the Christmas tree. So I don't have a coffee table. So I have to keep my coffee on my desk. It's out anyway. Okay, now I have the option to go knight c5, knight e4. That's always pleasant. Because if I can set up a blockade on e4, then he's not playing e4. So if e4 now, I can just take the knight. Bishop b5 really doesn't seem scary. Just either queen h4 or queen b6. No, not queen h4 because there's a pawn on e4, but queen b6. 4 minutes ahead on the clock. That's a nice time advantage. We've just started the middle game, basically. It's pretty equal. I do have a few more natural moves. I can go rook a8. I can go knight c5 or knight f8. Maybe knight c5, knight e4. And the problem for him is, where does the c3 knight move? I'm not sure about h3. This makes g3 harder to play, so if I can ever get rid of the d4 knight, then I may have some ideas of queen c6 or even bishop a8, queen b7. This is what I've played once. I like this battery. Just not putting my queen on the c file, but giving my bishop the a8 square and then going queen b7. I'm not sure what h3 does. It prevents knight g4, which doesn't need preventing. I believe it just weakens the white king, because the light squares are the real issue, or could become an issue. Sorry about my chair, it's really squeaky. I need to get some whatever and do something to it to make it less squeaky. So now if I go knight c5, he goes, let's say, bishop b1, and I play rook d4, e d4, and queen c6. Okay, now he doesn't have bishop b1. He wants to go knight d2 and support e4. Maybe he also wants to go bishop a3 if I go knight c5. But let's look at knight c5, bishop c2, rook d4, queen c6. He would have to go f3. I like knight c5. Knight c5, bishop c2, I could just go knight e4. And if knight c5, bishop a3, then if knight d3, bishop e7, rook d4, okay, I'm going knight c5. I don't want to trade rooks down the c-file, and I want to control e4. This just makes his rooks slightly worse. And I will consider bishop a8 on the next move. Okay, he did not play bishop a3. So now if I go bishop a8, what does he do? He no longer has e4. If b4, I can go knight e4 because he played h3. I mean, I can also consider something pretty risky, bishop d6 and bishop b8. But I'm not sure I like that. So for now, I'm just gonna go bishop a8. Give myself the option to go queen b7. His knight is excellent on d4, and if I can chase it away by playing queen b7, chase the knight back to f3, I think that would be a strategic success. Okay, great. Okay, let's go queen b7. Let's tie down this knight. He can trade a pair of rooks. There's not much I can do about it. Now I'm in full control of e4 and the knight is tied down. So if I get to play knight e4 followed by knight g5, that's gonna be very, very scary for him. In fact, what does he do? He should go knight d2 now. Or trade rooks and go knight d2. If he goes rook d1 now, I think knight e4 is very strong. And if knight d2, knight e4, knight e4, knight e4, bishop e4, queen e4, at least I have the bishop pair. But then the rook comes down to c7. I go bishop d6. I don't think this is a good idea. Because now what does he do against knight ce4? Knight ce4. If he takes it, I take with the knight. I'm also preventing knight a3. And I'm threatening knight g5, so I'm definitely doing that. Maybe he can get away with h4, but h4 doesn't seem too good. Okay. I'm looking at bishop a3, but I don't think it's very useful. But I could go bishop a3, rook d1, rook d4, knight d4, knight c3. How is that position looking? He would have to go queen f1, and then when I take on d1 he has to take with the bishop. So bishop c1, rook d1, rook d4, knight d4, knight c3. Okay, I'm going for that. That seems okay. I'm trying to use the weakness of the last move. And I'm trying to weaken the c3 square. He could of course play bishop takes f6 to prevent that. So if, okay, so now rook d4. If e d4, then knight c3. Rook d4, if knight d4, then knight c3. Queen f1. Oh, I can actually play knight g3 or knight d4. Rook d4, knight d4, knight g3. Attacks the queen. And the queen would have to go to f3. So rook d4, knight d4, knight g3, queen f3. It doesn't work. Rook d4, knight d4, knight c3, queen f1, rook d1, bishop d1. It's just a trade if I take on d4, but at least I get the bishop pair. So I'm gonna do it because I do get the bishop pair. Okay. Now I have the bishop pair and he has an isolated pawn on d4, so I should have a better position. He does get the e5 square for his knight. Okay. I want to get onto the c1 square, so I'm thinking queen c8. Maybe that's not enough. He's gonna go bishop c2. I'm going to weaken my dark squares by playing g6 to run away from this battery, because I can always go bishop f8 and reroute my bishop to g7. In fact, I may play bishop f8 right now, just to be able to comfortably go g6, and then I want my knight on f4, so I would love to play knight d5, knight f4. He's gonna go knight e5 at some point, and then knight g4, h6 or f6. But if my bishop is on g7, everything is covered. Why bishop e2? Maybe he wants to go a4. But now knight d5 is very strong, threatening knight f4. If he goes knight g5, I can just go g6. I think he should have played bishop c2. Okay. g3 makes me happy. So now I'm gonna go g6 and bishop g7. I want my bishop on this diagonal. Knight e5 isn't possible because of knight b4. Oh, well, actually it is. I'd have to go knight c3. No, I'd have to go knight f4. I'd have to go knight f4. So if knight e5, knight f4 wins. Because on bishop f3 I have knight d3. Okay, good idea. Now let's claim the c file. I'm not getting anything on this diagonal anymore. Well, maybe I am. But I'm still claiming the c file. If he goes knight e5, if knight e5, then I'd have to move back. Maybe I can even get my knight to f5. So knight e7, knight f5. That prevents knight e4. I like that idea. Transferring the knight to f5, weakening g3. This now prevents bishop g2 or the knight moving, because he would have to go bishop g2 and knight e1. So now if knight e1, I definitely want my queen on c6 to be able to play queen c1. Or do I just trade bishops? Don't like trading bishops. Okay, I'm playing queen c8. Maybe I shouldn't have gone queen c8, but I want to go queen c1 check. And I want my knight on f5 and my bishop on d6. I have two small advantages. One of them is going away. The bishop pair is going away. Then the other small advantage is the IQP on d4. I think I would like to trade queens. I think a queen trade is good for me. Maybe after the trade I can even go knight d5 and queen c3. Okay, knight d5. Do I trade bishops or not? I have the c file, I have the IQP. Okay, I'm going to trade bishops. Now he may be able to go knight g4, knight f6. So I'm going to fight against it. Or he may be able to go knight e4, knight f6. So I'm going to fight against that too. Okay, maybe even knight c5. Now he's preventing queen c3. I'm not sure I want to go f5, but I may be able to go queen b7. Or even get away with knight b4. Okay, knight b4, what does he do? Knight f6 check. Okay, let's go bishop e7 first. Bishop e7 first. If he goes queen f3, what do I do? Ooh, queen f3. He has queen f3. Okay, queen b7. Maybe I should just go f6. He wants to go knight g5 and take my f7 pawn, but that runs into f6 for now. So maybe I go king g7 to cover f6 some more. On queen f3 I can go queen b7 or f6. I don't know. I'd misplayed this position. Definitely. I just don't know where. Maybe knight e7, knight f5 idea was wrong. Maybe I should have played bishop e7 instead of bishop f8. Still, I have the c-file, I'm playing against an isolated pawn, and I have 1 minute extra on the clock. Okay, I'm going h5 because g4 isn't playable. Oh, but he has knight g5. And I don't have f6. Ugh. Ugh. Uh-oh. I think I have to play f5. I have to do it. Yep, I have to play f5. This is not looking good. I should not have gone h5. His knights are superb. What does this do? He wants to move the knight and play queen takes e6. What if I go bishop e7? Where does the knight go? The knight goes to f7. Okay, so I need to cover that. I need to go Okay, I'm gonna go bishop e7, and on knight f7 I'm gonna take. I still have this tempo with knight c3, knight e4. Ooh, okay. Nice. Oh, okay, maybe not now. Maybe I do this now. Okay. Ooh, what about queen c2? Maybe I have a5, b4, but maybe not. Ooh, okay. My idea is to go e5 and to keep the knight pinned. Okay, now I'm gonna go b4 or e5. No, e5 just drops the pawn, there's no compensation. I cannot let him get a protected passed pawn. Ooh, I didn't see that. I have to take. Now I'm just losing. So that's not good. Oh no, I'm not losing. It's gonna be checkmate if he takes the pawn. Ooh, I didn't see that. Queen h1 mate. Okay. Alright, so let's defend the pawn. He saw queen h1. That's good. My king is close enough that he doesn't have queen d6. If I'm going to win this game, I need to win the pawn on c5. He cannot go queen e5. It doesn't win. It wins for me. Risky. He needs to find a perpetual, because if I get my king to the other side, or if I get my pawn to yeah, it's gonna be a perpetual. Okay, okay, let's have a look at the game. Okay, so the mistake he'd made here was castling. You need to go e4, and then after c5 you either go e5 or d5, and it's slightly better for white. After castles it's just equal. Black is fine after c5. Bishop b7, bishop b2, bishop e7, rook c1 castles, queen e2. Okay, and as you can see, black is slightly better. I played queen b6 first. It was correct to take on d4. Now I took on d4. Rook fd8. Okay, everything is great. Knight c5 is great. Somebody had mate in 1? Somebody had mate in 1? Okay, I didn't see it. Must have been queen h1. Okay. Knight takes d2. Knight takes d2. Ah! If knight takes d2, then mate. And if queen takes d2, then e5. And he cannot move the knight. No. Okay, this was still better for me. Where did I go wrong? Knight b4 was always good. Wait, why couldn't he go queen b1? Oh, bishop h6, nice. Oof. Ah, how did I let this one get away? Yeah, h5 was just a blunder. I think he should have gone knight f7 here. I'm not sure what's wrong with knight f7. Knight b4 and I'm okay. Wow. Okay. Oh no, I missed queen h1, mate. Ugh. I really did miss it. I saw it a move later. No. I'm guessing this is all just equal. Yeah. Why did I miss mate in 1? Okay. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.